Hi friends, and Happy New Year. Hopefully it's been a good 2024. Hopefully you had some great holidays, whichever holidays you may or may not celebrate. I hope it was good nonetheless. Hope 2024 was a good year for you. Just to get straight to the brass tacks, straight to the point, 2024 was a good year for me personally, and also for the channel. The channel essentially tripled in its viewership and its subscriber count. Past few years, I've had kind of concerns about the long-term, sustainability of doing this as a job. And this year has made me feel a lot more confident in what I'm capable of. So I want to, kind of take what I've learned and run with it in a way that's going to allow me to continue pursuing the things I want to pursue and do what I want to do, essentially. So first of all, Patreon and membership. I don't think I have a lot of options on how I can tailor my YouTube membership. So this is mostly going to apply to Patreon. But essentially, I'm flattening the board, burning the house down, destroying everything in a way. What the hell am I talking about? Okay, so right now how I have Patreon set up is I have 4 membership tiers. You have your lettuce tier is kind of your basic low tier, and then more higher tiers with higher perks, standard Patreon stuff. I hate the model that I currently have built for Patreon. I don't like it. I don't like the perks that I have set out for it, and I haven't even really necessarily honored them. And I do feel bad about that. So just as an example, the $5 tier, the tomato tier, one of the perks there is a friend code. And I wanted to keep that initially when I set that up as sort of a Patreon exclusive thing. And I have found that that boxes me in because, when I have people that I consider friends in either real life or even just internet friends, I suddenly feel like, oh, I can't give out my friend code because I paywalled it. And then I also have instances where I have had people, this has only really happened with one person, but I had an instance last year where I had a community member who had paid themselves into a higher tier, and basically they were entitled to getting my friend code, but they were frankly a troubled and troublesome individual who I did not feel comfortable giving my friend code away to. The thing that sucked about that particular scenario was that they were on YouTube membership, not Patreon, and I had no way to block or refund them because YouTube's moderation options for membership are far less robust than Patreon's, and it was a whole annoying thing to get rid of them. I felt like, oh, there's someone who I'm not comfortable with giving that away to, who's bought their way into that position, whereas there's people I would like to give this friend code to, but then I feel like, oh, I can't do that because that's like a perk that I have to reserve. So I just want to get rid of that. I feel like I've locked myself into something that I'm not happy with. So essentially what I want to do on the YouTube side, it's basically going to stay how it is. I'm going to remove the perk for friend code, for example, but relatively it'll stay the same. You can pay whichever tier that you feel comfortable with. You can join the tier, you'll still get your badges, and I will keep the membership/Patreon scroll at the end of my videos for Patreon. I am going to essentially make everything one tier as best as I can. There may be some Patreon finagling I have to do where there is 2, but the gist of it is that I'm going to nuke everything. Everything will be one tier, and the option will be for you guys to essentially pay what you want, whatever you feel comfortable with. The big Patreon perk, which I offer to all tiers, is that early access to videos and the Discord perks. And I want to keep those are going to stay intact. But everything else feels so arbitrary and weird and insignificant, and it almost feels not worth it. I have periodically asked over the years that I've been doing this, how can I improve this? How can I, make Patreon better and more worthwhile? And the answer has always been the same. Everyone has always said, essentially, it's fine how it is. The perks don't really matter. We just want to support the channel. And first of all, thank you so much. That makes my heart absolutely swell with gratitude. But also, I just feel that has been reflected in the community in a lot of ways, where people who are after a certain perk tend to leave unsatisfied. and people who just want to support the channel stick around long term. I have had plenty of instances where people have paid for a single month to watch a video early and then canceled. And that's fine. And I appreciate that. But I don't want people to get so caught up in what they benefit from it that they lose sight of what it's all about, which is like the community aspect of it. I hope that makes sense. So essentially, we're going to level the playing field. You'll get just one sort of point of access. And if you want to pay more than that, you're more than welcome to. And I greatly appreciate it, but you don't have to. Part of the reason I can make that change is because things are so much more stable on the ad revenue side, on the YouTube side of things, as far as viewership and ad revenue goes there, that I feel like I don't need to lean on Patreon as much. In fact, I have not really been incorporating like Patreon earnings into my quote unquote like salary for a long time. For pretty much the entirety of 2024, I have taken those Patreon earnings and always just reinvested them into the channel. So when I need to, say, hire or bring someone in as a contractor to have them do work for the channel, like when I have Stainer, or I've had recently my friend Pixel record some gameplay footage for me. When I have things like that and I need to contract that work out, I've just been essentially setting Patreon earnings aside and using that. And that's how I continue to keep running things. So if you want, higher production value and stuff like that, that's always what the Patreon funds are going to go to. So it's always going to go back into making better content for you guys, because I don't have to lean on it so much for supplementing my income. Also, for the new year, I'm going to do a Discord rule rewrite and managing of the channels, just like I did at the beginning of last year. There are some things to consider, like I've redone the onboarding process and the rules still reflect the old process, so I need to clean that up. And I think there's some channels that I can either not delete, but maybe rename and reorganize in a way that will just make more sense. So that's also something to look out for. And the final thing that I want to update you guys on is that I'm launching another channel. I have been sitting on this idea for probably half a year now, maybe longer. Definitely longer, actually. Essentially, I sometimes have video ideas that do not fall in the scope of what my current channel does or covers. And I have not boxed myself in per se, but it is worth noting that the algorithm will punish you if you deviate too far. So this second channel may not interest everybody. It's not a gaming channel. It's just going to be a channel where I can post whatever I want. Rants, discussions with friends, skits, even if I feel like it. I don't know. The point is that it'll stay as a non-gaming channel, as just something I can do whatever I feel like with, and I don't have to worry about the impact that will have on this channel. It sucks that YouTube works in such a way where I have to think of it in that way and draw that separation, but that's how YouTube works. So I have to play the game, unfortunately. So there you guys have it. I hope everything is clean and understandable. I want to again reiterate how grateful I am to everybody here for all of the support for all these years. It means a lot, so I appreciate it. I'm always so humbled and grateful to be able to do this. It's a weird feeling to have actually worked towards and grasped at your dreams, if that makes sense. So here's to hopefully another great year. I feel good about 2025 after a great 2024. Hopefully the world doesn't burn down. In any case, there's lots more work to do. There's dungeons to examine and other things. So stay tuned. I will post stuff for my second channel here when it is live as well. So stay tuned for that. And for everything else Zelda dungeon related, stay tuned here. All right, guys. Thanks so much for everything. I mean it. Bye-bye.